Hey guys, finding the perfect gift for the food lover in your life is easy, thanks to Goldbelly. Goldbelly ships America's most iconic foods, straight from world-famous restaurants right to your door. So if you want to treat someone to Joe's Stone Crab from Miami, Franklin Barbecue from Texas, or desserts from famous foodies like Ina Garten or Martha Stewart, Goldbelly has you covered. Just go to goldbelly.com and for a limited time, get 20% off your first order with promo code GIFT. That's promo code GIFT.
Hello, my name's David Seaman, and this is the Three Lions Podcast.
Hello and welcome to the Three Lions Podcast. My name is Russell Osborne, and this is an independent England football supporters podcast. I hope I find you well. Thanks once again for joining me. Hopefully I'm now back into a more fluent swing of things. After the short personal break, there was a lot of love for the Turkey 2003 episode where I spoke with Blackpool fan Walshy. He told us how he managed to break that ring of steel around the Istanbul ground in that Euro 2004 qualifier. If you've not heard it yet, you can find it at your podcast provider of choice or threelionspodcast.com. Now, I'd also like to say a huge thank you to all of those who have said nice things about the podcast's nomination for the Football Content Awards. It's very warming, very appreciated. So if you don't mind, let me just quickly recap how you can vote. Head to the website footballcontentawards.com, find the Best Podcast International category, click Vote Now, scroll down through all the other nominees until you find Three Lions Podcast, and place your vote there. Put your little tick in. Thank you. Thank you so much. Although seriously though, vote for whoever you appreciate. And there are loads of great content creators in there in loads of different categories. Go check them out. I just also want to add something. Many people have asked, so are you going to go? Are you going to go to the awards ceremony? And in all honesty, I've not made my mind up. Let me explain a couple of things. First and foremost, it is incredibly out of my comfort zone. I've never really been one for mingling and networking in a sense, because that's kind of what it is. It's a networking event. Also, it's on a Thursday night in November. It's at Elland Road at Leeds United. And fair enough for those that live that way. But for me, it's a 3 and a bit hour drive. And as it's an evening, I'm going to have to get a hotel for the night. I'd have to take a couple of days off work. Well, I might just get away with Thursday afternoon, but I'd certainly have to take Friday off. Then I need to sort childcare, sort the school run, all that sort of stuff. Now, there is a 2-course meal and a welcome drink on arrival, which is all very nice. But I'd have to pay for this. Tickets for the event are priced at £150 and £300. You can go if you want to. You can go and watch. You can attend the awards ceremony. £300 apparently is VIP with additional drinks and seats towards the front. Although myself, having been kindly nominated by you guys, I'd get a 50% discount on whichever ticket should I decide to go. So it's not all cut and clear, I guess. It's not that I don't want to go. It's all the other life admin that surrounds it. But we'll see. Plenty of time at the moment. A little bit of other news you may have seen, or missed maybe. But the BBC's excellent commentator Ian Dennis tweeted recently that the senior team are looking at 2 home friendlies next March. Uruguay and Japan have both been mentioned, both likely to be at Wembley. Both decent standard of opposition, I think you'll agree. And then as the World Cup nears, there are plans to play 2 warm-up games in June over in the States to acclimatise. Now, I do wonder if there will also be a home send-off game too. I'll be honest, I haven't really taken a proper look at the dates of how the season ends and maybe the Champions League final, but once again, time will tell. We will see. But on to this episode. I will warn you, it's a bit statty. There's a lot of numbers. The inspiration for it came from Arsenal recently debuting Max Dowman in the Premier League match against Leeds. It was a little while back now. In doing so, he became the second youngest player to represent the Gunners. Aged 15 years and 235 days. He is just behind Ethan Nwaneri, who made his debut in 2022, aged 15 and 181 days. So about 50 odd days younger. And in doing so, he is currently the youngest player to play in the Premier League. And he's gone on to play over 30 senior games for Arsenal. He's also won caps for England's under 16, 17, 19 and 21 age group. He was part of the squad that won the summer's under 21 Euros in Bratislava. And then just as Dowman had played, Liverpool's Rio Ngamoa made his Premier League debut and he scored the winner in their away game to Newcastle, and he became the club's youngest ever goal scorer, aged 16 years and 361 days. So he's already turned 17 now. He had already made his Liverpool debut the previous season in their FA Cup tie against Accrington Stanley. But both Dowman and Ngamoa are English and have both played at youth level for the Three Lions, both for the under 16, 17 and 19. Ngamoa has also played for the under 15s. So, whilst on a recent holiday to various American theme parks, I began writing this podcast whilst waiting in various queues. It got me thinking, could one of these players, or perhaps someone else, become England's youngest ever player? I'm sure you don't need me to tell you who currently holds that achievement. Well, for those of you who are scratching your head, it is Theo Walcott, who back on the 30th of May 2006 became the youngest player to represent England when we faced Hungary in a friendly. 5 days earlier, he'd played in an England B team in a game against Belarus. But back to Hungary, he came on as a 65th minute substitute for Michael Owen. Walcott, aged a mere 17 years and 75 days. It was a 3-1 victory at Manchester United's Old Trafford. As a side note, also coming on as a sub at the same time, standing quite literally head and shoulders on the touchline above Walcott, was Peter Crouch, who would go on to score the third England goal of that game, and he brought out the robot celebration once again. Now, I've searched and searched and searched, but I just can't find the moment that Walcott and England made this momentous occasion in either visual or audio form. I'm sure it's somewhere in the BBC or Sky vaults, but it just doesn't seem to be publicly available, which is a shame. Walcott was born on the 16th of March 1989, and at the time he, like Dowman, was playing for Arsenal. Walcott was previously at Southampton, and he wouldn't make his Premier League debut until the 19th of August 2006. This is after his England debut. Now, you need to take into account that Southampton were a championship side, where he'd only appeared 21 times, but he'd already become the club's youngest ever goal scorer in that time. But back to England. Walcott famously and controversially was part of Sven-Göran Eriksson's 2006 German World Cup squad. Although in the end he didn't feature in any of the games, which to many then reflected saying it was a waste of a player, waste of a space, taking him and not using him. Although Eriksson defended his decision by saying the experience would serve him well for future tournaments. And he would go on to win 47 caps for England, scoring on 8 occasions. There's the famous hat-trick away to Croatia in Zagreb.
Rooney. Lovely ball, it's Walcott. It couldn't be, could it? It is, you know, it's a hat-trick for Theo Walcotts. Just sensational.
That was in September 2008 in the World Cup qualifier. And in doing that, he became the youngest England player to score a hat-trick. Still in his teenage years, aged 19 and 177 days. Now, as Eriksson said, the experience of going to Germany 2006 would hold him in good stead for future England tournaments. Well, sadly, Walcott only had the one opportunity, the 2012 Euros, where one of those 8 goals was the equaliser against Sweden in Kiev.
Corner towards Carroll, well defended by Jonas Olsson. Struck by Walcott! He's only just come on! Shrugs his shoulders, he knows that there's a hint of fortune about how he found his way into the net. But a speculator from Theo Walcott from the edge of the penalty area has put England on terms again.
Because Capello dropped him for South Africa 2010, injury kept him out of Brazil 2014, and Roy Hodgson didn't select him for France 2016. But he would make 3 appearances under Gareth Southgate, his last a 2-2 draw at home to Spain in a friendly where he was aged 27 years and 244 days. But before Walcott, there was a certain Wayne Rooney who held that record as the youngest player to represent England. He held it for 3 years, 3 months and 18 days. Rooney broke onto the Everton scene in 2002, aged just 16. Becoming Everton's second youngest player at the time. He was behind former England international Joe Royle, an Everton legend. Goals in the League Cup made him Everton's youngest ever goal scorer, but it was his rocket of a winner against Arsenal 5 days before his 17th birthday, which made him, at the time, the Premier League's youngest goal scorer. And then England's manager was Sven-Göran Eriksson, and he'd been following the young prodigy, who had already appeared at under 15, 17 and 19 level. Now, England's first match of 2003 was a friendly against a touring Australia side. The two sides met at West Ham's Upton Park on the 12th of February. In a strange way, it's a game famous for a multitude of reasons. Firstly, Australia won it 3-1. Their first ever victory over England. How they loved that. And in all honesty, they probably still do. Francis Jeffers, who came on as a half-time substitute for his one and only cap, scored his one and only goal. And I mentioned substitutes. This was a game where for the first time in England's history, Eriksson changed the side at half-time. Every single player. 2 halves, 2 different England teams. Eriksson had previous for this against Italy and Paraguay, although not all at half-time. And he came under a lot of stick from the media and from the fans for changing the team around, be it the game against Italy or Paraguay, and especially the game against Australia where he changed every single one of them. And unsurprisingly, it's not something any following England managers have tried themselves. But the other moment of the game involved one of those second half substitutes. Rooney aged 17 years and 111 days, replaced Kieran Dyer to become England's youngest player. Now, despite not having the audio or the footage of Walcott's record-breaking moment, Rooney's moment is still out there. He runs out of the tunnel wearing the red Umbro away shirt of the time with the number 23 on the front and back.
17 years old, 111 days, and Wayne Rooney becomes the youngest player ever to represent England at senior level. Good luck, son. From all of us.
I'd echo that, Richard. Over 130 years of England matches, almost 800 games, 1,113 previous players, and now it's Wayne Rooney who's already set marks for young talent in club football. He goes into the England record books.
Obviously, Rooney went on to break many more records for club and England, including breaking Bobby Charlton's goal-scoring record and becoming England's most capped outfield player with 120 caps. And in a slight twist, he made his England debut 3 years before Theo Walcott and made his last appearance 2 years after Walcott had made his. But one record that Rooney still holds is the youngest England goal scorer. It was 2003 away to Macedonia where he scored the equaliser in a 2-1 win. Aged 17 years and 317 days. He took the record from Michael Owen, as he'd previously held that for his goal against Morocco in 1998 when he was aged 18 years and 164 days.
Wayne Rooney, who won't be 18 until the end of next month, gets the vote up front, and were he to score, Rooney would supersede his striking partner Michael Owen as England's youngest ever marksman. Big game for him, Trevor. No real conviction about their game yet, but here's Heskey. Now Rooney's following up here, and there's conviction now. Wayne Rooney has become the youngest goal scorer in England's international history. He's got to be careful how he celebrates, in view of the supporters who shouldn't really be here in the FA's opinion. But 53 minutes gone, and Rooney at 17 has scored his first goal for England, and he's just produced it when England looked to be really in trouble. The ball up to Emil Heskey, the header down, through strikes.
Now, it might surprise you to know that Rooney broke a record that had stood since 1879, 124 years prior, when a young James Prinsep of Clapham Rovers won his one and only cap, aged 17 years and 253 days, in a friendly against Scotland. It was England's 9th ever game, and we won 5-4. In fact, not only did Prinsep hold the record of the youngest England player of the time, but he was also the youngest player to play in an FA Cup final. That was before Curtis Weston broke that for Millwall in the 2004 final. And as you'd expect, there is no available audio or footage of Prinsep making his debut for England back in 1879. But sadly, James died at the young age of just 34 after suffering with pneumonia after playing golf in Scotland. And just for the record, the first youngest player to appear for England, if that makes sense, was John Maynard. He played in the very first game against Scotland in 1872, aged 19 and 257 days. So let's return now to the likes of Dowman and Ungamoa. Could they break Walcott's record? In theory, yes. But with Thomas Tuchel in charge, I'm not so certain. Although both clearly have some time on their side. And the reason I'm a little uncertain is that with the job in hand, I'm not sure Tuchel is in the right mindset to be bringing players in of this age. for his aim of getting to the World Cup and ultimately winning it. He's already shown he's a manager who values experience by previously selecting the likes of Jordan Henderson and Kyle Walker, and clearly that's his choice. He believes whoever he picks has the capabilities of helping our cause. Now, the youngest player he has selected so far is Arsenal's Miles Lewis-Skelly. So far, he's won 4 caps, and could be said he's already rewarded Tuchel for when he scored on his debut against Albania back in March. He was 18 years and 176 days old that day, and in doing so, he broke a record by becoming the youngest player to score on their debut.
Here is Lewis-Skelly trying to get in behind. He's done just that. Tapped it in, and it's the perfect debut for the Arsenal teenager.
So, hypothetically, if Tuchel was to go down the youngster route, and in his defence, whilst at Chelsea, he did blood various players from their academy. Lewis Hall, who is now at Newcastle, was 17, and Harvey Vale and Javier Simmons were 18. But what sort of player could he pick? Who could qualify for breaking Walcott's record? Well, basically, any player. And there is the phrase that was popularised by Sir Matt Busby, legendary manager of Manchester United back in the 50s and 60s. He would often say, if you're good enough, you're old enough. And it's a phrase still heard in terrace chats, pub chats and group chats. Both Dalman and Ungamawa have been used as attacking midfielders or out on the wing. But would you trust a young goalkeeper? Maybe. In 2012, Jack Butland made his debut against Italy, aged 19 years and 158 days. And he's still going strong with Rangers at the moment. 4 years earlier, in 2008, Joe Hart was 21 years and 43 days old when he made his debut against Trinidad and Tobago, and he went on to have a 9-year England career with 75 caps. So perhaps the thought of James Trafford making his debut anytime soon isn't such a wild idea. Personally, I thought he may have got a game under his belt against Andorra, though Tuchel decided against that, and it appears that his spot at City has come under pressure following Donnarumma's arrival. Trafford, currently 22, turning 23 in October. Would you trust a young centre-back in his teenage years, or a defender? I mentioned Lewis Hall earlier. He made his England debut under Lee Carsley, aged 20 and 177 days. Rico Lewis made his debut away to North Macedonia the day before his 19th birthday. England's youngest defender, do you know who that was? Micah Richards. He was 18 years and 143 days in 2006 when we drew away to the Netherlands. He went on to earn 13 caps, his last under Stuart Pearce as interim manager in 2012. Ironically, once again against the Dutch. But I do wonder if a winger or a striker is the best option for a player of a young age to break this record. Hence my referrals so much to Dalman and Ungamawa. Although, I do want to point out I'm not looking to put any additional pressure on their young shoulders. They're still growing. They're both still children, both physically and mentally. They've still got so much to learn about the game. But one name I'm sure will be on many of your minds will be Michael Owen, of course. He was the player Theo Walcott, as I mentioned, replaced that day in 2006. Owen was 18 years and 59 days when he made his Three Lions debut in a Wembley friendly against Chile in February 1998. And like Walcott and Rooney making their debuts, that last year of childhood, 17 years of age, was also the age of both Jude Bellingham and Raheem Sterling when they made their debuts. Bellingham, 17 years and 137 days against Ireland at an empty Wembley because of COVID. And Sterling was 17 years and 341 days. His debut coming away to Sweden in that game where Zlatan scored all four. How many times I've mentioned that game. I say about not wanting to put any added pressure on the shoulders of these youngsters, as in the past various parts of the media, they've spoken of young players and heaped pressure on them, made up teams that they think would be participating in future tournaments for England, but these players haven't been able to make the step up as some and they may have liked. Michael Johnson was a midfielder for Manchester City, made his debut aged 18. He'd already played for England's under-16 and under-19, and he'd go on to make 2 appearances for the under-21s, but sadly, injury cut his career short. Matthew Briggs was just 16 years and 68 days old in 2007 when he made his Premier League debut for Fulham. He would play for our under-16s through to the under-21s. Then he moved around the lower leagues before changing his allegiances to Guyana through his grandmother. James Vaughan, some may remember him, 16 years and 270 days when he scored for Everton against Crystal Palace in the Premier League in 2005. And as of this moment, he still holds the record, the youngest goalscorer in the Premier League. He too has played for various lower English league clubs, whilst also appearing for the under-17, 19 and 21s. And scenarios like this are why I personally don't get overly excited about when our young Lions win a trophy. Don't get me wrong, winning a trophy at any age is great, and it's great to see an England team win a trophy. I'm pleased for them. But I know how cutthroat the game can be, how players' growth can stop, go in a different direction, players' attitudes change, a whole multitude of things can contribute. But one player who won a medal at the summer's under-21 Euros was Harvey Elliott. He's 22 now, but back in 2018, he was aged 15 years and 174 days. He became the youngest player to play in the EFL Cup, the League Cup, the trophy currently sponsored by Carabao. This was when he was playing for Fulham before he moved to Liverpool, where he was, at the time, the youngest Premier League player before Ethan Nwaneri, who I mentioned at the beginning of the show, took that title from him. Surprisingly, Elliott, who is now on loan at Aston Villa, is still to make his senior debut. And it's not just England fans who will have these conversations. I'm not sure what, if you're good enough, you're old enough, is in Spanish, or in any other language for that matter. But I can assure you, fans of Barcelona and the Spanish national team have said it. Not wanting to remind you too much of it, but let me take you back to the summer of 2024, Berlin. A particular Spanish youngster had just celebrated his 17th birthday the day before the final. A certain Lamine Yamal. He'd made his international debut for Spain in September 2023, aged 16 years and 57 days, in a 7-1 win over Georgia. And he scored too, making him the youngest player and goal scorer in Spanish history. Here's an interesting fact that you can share down the pub. Yamal isn't even his surname. His actual name is Lamine Yamal Nasserai Abana. But there have been younger players. Lukas Knecht played for the Northern Marina Islands, aged 14 years and 2 days in 2007. He was still at school, still at secondary school. The Northern Marina Islands are in the Northern Pacific Ocean between Hawaii and the Philippines. However, they aren't a FIFA-recognised nation. So back in 2000, Ong Kwan Tun turned out for Myanmar, aged 14 years and 93 days in a game against Thailand. And that was a game he also scored in, making him the youngest goal scorer in a FIFA match. There we have it. I did say it would be a bit statty, but there is plenty there to bore your mates with down the pub. I hope you found it of interest. I've no doubt I've missed a player or two out or got an age wrong. Please let me know. If there's, maybe you agree, maybe Max Dellman should be selected by Thomas Tuchel or Rio Ungamoa. Could they, either of those, make an impact in the current England setup? Let me know. 3lionspodcast@gmail.com, or you can find me on the socials, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. Just drop us a line. One thing I will say, as I often do, I must credit both England Football Online and England Stats as I trawled through their sites for some of the information that I've just passed on to you there. So I hope you've enjoyed it. Thank you very much, as always, for joining me. I will be back with you very soon. We will have the Wales and the Latvia preview episode to come. I'm kind of working on that at the moment. That will be with you very soon. If you're going to either of those games, I'm not going to the Latvia game. I am going to the Wales game, perhaps. I will see you there. But in the meantime, take care of yourselves. Cheers.